Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ask Me Anything webinar. We're going to go ahead and wait a couple minutes before we get started to let all of our attendees in. Thank you for coming today. We're excited to have you. Welcome, welcome. Just waiting for all of our attendees to go ahead and come in. We'll get started in just a minute. Okay. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Ask Me Anything webinar series that we've been hosting this summer, really with the intention of answering all of your questions that you have about what it looks like to attend Biola University. My name is Kayla Zuniga. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Admissions here at Biola, and I'm just so excited to see how many have attended these webinars with interest in knowing more and setting themselves up for success while at Biola. Now, this is the last of 4 opportunities to ask questions to a variety of offices across campus, and today's episode will be all about student development and student success and conversations to have over the summer in preparation for coming to Biola. So we ask that all of your questions remain relevant to those areas and the experience that these individuals have to share. We have some pre-submitted questions that were sent in prior to the webinar, but we will also have space for you to send in your questions using the chat feature at the bottom of the Zoom. So feel free to chat us any questions as they come up. Maybe some questions are asked or even something is said during the webinar. Feel free to insert those, and our panelists will help in answering those questions. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let our guests introduce themselves. Tiffany, if you could go ahead and start us off today.
Hi there, my name is Tiffany Lee. I'm the Associate Vice President of Student Success here at Biola. And I've been here for almost 16 years, been here a while. I oversee the Office of Academic Advising, the Career Center, and Study Abroad.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tiff. We're so excited to have you here today. And then I will transition it over to Sandy.
Hello there, I am Sandy Huff. I am the Dean of Community Life and the Title IX Coordinator. And as the Dean of Community Life, I oversee Housing Res Life, campus engagement, global student engagement, veteran and military affiliated student programs, basically a lot of the things that happen outside the classroom to build community and connection. So I have been at Biola for 10 years now, but in Christian higher ed for 27 years. So this feels like home away from home, and I'm just excited to be with you all today.
Thank you, Sandy. Both of our panelists today have a wealth of knowledge to share with you all, so we're excited to hear from them. But to start us off, Sandy, would you go ahead and share maybe 3 to 4 key conversations that you feel like would be most important for our students and their families to have before coming to Biola?
So first of all, I am one of you. Not too long ago, I was sending my first kid. Maybe this is your first, maybe you're a veteran at sending students off to college, but just 2 years ago, I sent my eldest off to school. And here I had been in the field for so many years, and yet it was different. It was mine. And so have resonated with some of those unique challenges, but really what an exciting time for you and your son or daughter to embark on. Definitely a different time, probably, but the connections and the ways that you will be able to share in the journey with them feels pretty incredible. Just to think about. So I just have 3 little things. You probably have already thought about them. Perhaps you've already talked about them, but things that I have found to be true over the years in doing this work. And a lot of that has to do with what can you do to set expectations around communication. Now we're in a different era with cell phones and stalking sounds harsh, but find my child is very easy to do. I know where they are every single day, every single moment, which is a gift. I know where they are. But there's another part to that. And so, how are you going to use the technology and the information you have? You know, I can remember one night wanting, I didn't do it, to text my kid and say, "Why are you still at the beach at a certain hour?" And so, did I need to do that? No. Did I want to? Yes. But what was in that was everything okay? Was he okay? Who was he with? General concern. He knows that. He knows I'm going to ask those questions. So maybe there's a conversation around that for you to have with them. How often do you expect to text back? I have a son. He's not the best at texting back, but it's a one-way text communication thread that he doesn't care if I text him, but I shouldn't always expect an answer back. And so just what does that look like for you? What are the rhythms? If that looks a certain way now, don't be surprised or alarmed if that changes a little when they go off to college. In fact, if they're living on campus, the hours are just different. Things look different than when they lived perhaps in your home, what time frames were when they were in the house and things like that. So I think the best advice I can give on that one is just have a conversation ahead of time with them of what your expectations are for that. The second area of expectations is certainly around finances. And what does that look like? And how are you supporting them? How are you not? What does money look like? One of the things for my kid, he did have his car. And so previously we had paid for gas. That was just something, one of the things that our family covered for him. And I said, I will cover 1 tank of gas per month. Like that was the boundary to just set some expectations that they weren't driving all over SoCal. And if they were, that they had to take that into account as they budgeted their own money. So again, maybe you've had those conversations, or maybe you're already doing that now when they were in high school. But those were things that I had to, as a parent, think through. And then it just helps them kind of engage and not have to wonder. And then I think the last one I would talk about is if your local or your son or daughter has the ability to come home, what is the expectation that you have for them in returning home? They get that awesome offer for Thanksgiving to fly to their roommates' home, and all of a sudden it's like, oh no, they're not coming home. So talk about what holidays might look like. It may feel premature, but anytime that you can have it ahead of time certainly takes a little bit off the stress off. I think about a balloon. Like I'm all about taking a little bit of the air out at a time instead of watching it fly around the room. And so those are the kind of things that if you can have some of those preliminary conversations, the better off, I believe, those relationships will continue to be. And the other and this is more of a conversation, but just here's what I'm learning, mom, is to let them fail, to let them do it not the way you would want. You wouldn't do it for them that way, but to have them step into these questions that they might have, or they don't know how to do something, or even just the last, my kid's a junior, so he has a major, but he wanted to declare a second major, and he's like, "I don't know how to do it," and he was overwhelmed, and he kind of avoided it because he just didn't know the step he needed to take, and I was like, "I'm happy to help you, but I'm not gonna do it." And, so just even how in the past I may have engaged, you can call me a helicopter or whatever we are now, how can you guide instead of do? And so and some of that comes, they may wait till the last minute, they may not do it in the time frame that it's supposed to be, but that's part of this journey of, I believe, letting them figure out how to navigate systems of college, but also just systems in general and time frames and stuff like that. So those are just a few. I mean, I feel like every day I'm learning something new. I also have a senior in high school. I think Tiff does too. And so we are going to be in this same situation next year together as we engage in this. And college changes, university life changes, and what our students are able to do and accomplish. It's an exciting time. And I think I appreciate parental involvement. You guys are their biggest advocates, supporter advocates for them. And so no, by no means when we're like, let the student do it, are we saying we don't want you a part of it? It's just how can you be a part of it with them instead of for them? So that's just a couple of thoughts, but I'm just thrilled to be on here with you and look forward to partnering with you as your student goes through Biola.
Thank you so much, Sandy. Even as I reflect on my own college journey, I feel like these conversations would have been so helpful for me to have with my own parents as we entered into this space for the first time. So thank you for sharing your wisdom in your own experience working at Biola, but also with your parental experience as well. Okay, so we will go ahead and dive into the pre-submitted questions that were sent in to us. The first one is in terms of orientation. So Sandy, could you describe maybe what students can expect from orientation when they arrive at Biola?
Sure. So orientation. So when you think about orientation, it really is what you might imagine. You're orienting yourself to a new space. So if you've been a part of a church or part of a new organization and they had some sort of get to know, that is our hope, is that orientation is setting someone up kind of ethereally, this is what we're asking, that they're getting set up to engage in Biola. So what are the tips? What are the moments? What are the connections? And what do they need to know right now to be successful? So Steph just dropped the schedule into the chat, so you can log into that to see the exact schedule. So we have everything from if they're living on campus, that's the move-in day, but then orientation specifically on Friday is geared towards conversations around social connection, academic connection. And really, our goal for those days before school starts is to get them ready and set up. Do they know where to go? Do they know where their classes are? Do they know where they could get their questions answered from a resource perspective? But then there's also just nuances about Biola that make Biola Biola. And so let's say if they transferred in or if there was something like that, we want to make sure they understand Biola and how we operate. And the beauty of that is our Christian faith and how that plays out. So even on that Sunday of orientation weekend, we will do one time a worship service on our campus. We don't do that on any other Sunday except that weekend. And the point of that is to get connection with the students so that they know where to go. And I know this is a question later, but even how to get connected to a church and things like that. So our goal of the weekend is to set them up. They cannot retain all the information that is going to be given to them. It's just quite frankly too much. And so our job is to kind of pace it in a way that gives them what they need at the right time to engage in that first week of classes. And then we will continue to provide information, I say just in time information when they need it. So because they're drinking from a fire hose. And for some that will just be too much. And so there will be lots of people around to answer their questions. They will also be in orientation groups with a older student, either a sophomore or a junior student, that they can ask their questions. So they don't have to feel intimidated to be like, I just don't understand. Like that is what they're there for. They are on staff for that weekend to play that role with those students. So it's a little bit of there's connection in terms of those groups, there's education on what does it look like to be at Biola. And then I hope there's also some fun, some of those events that just this is a little bit of the spirit of Biola. So that Friday night is our welcome and our communion service. And that really is kind of this here you are now a part of, we've said welcome, welcome, welcome. But now this is a time for our students to kind of step into this. They are Biola. And for you as parents to participate in this prayerful time, to commission them, to pray over them, and to release them. And so our hope is that you can also participate in that event on Friday. So if there's lots of details, if you have further questions, certainly let me know. But really, there will be organizations outside for students to find out about clubs, to find out about offices, to find out about support services. Our job that weekend and really that Friday is to make sure they can see all the things that are present here if they haven't already done so.
Yeah, that's great. And one of the support services is here with us today. So student success. One of the first questions that we have, Tiffany, is what is your biggest piece of advice for students coming into college for the first time and navigating the balance of community and work?
Yeah, that's great question. Yeah, Sandy alluded to or said that I also have a daughter who's a senior in high school. So she's my oldest, so I haven't sent a student off to college, but I've worked with these incoming students for many, many years. One tip, I would say the first thing that I would recommend for students is to take risks. They're going to be entering into a lot of new relationships, and meeting a lot of new people, their peers. They're going to be going to orientation and going to class and in their dorm rooms if they're living on campus or participating in other things, in other programming. And for some of them, that's going to feel really scary. And so to take risks, to talk to people is going to be really uncomfortable. And we all know that COVID disrupted our students' learning, not only academic learning, but their social learning. These are the students that went through COVID in middle school and high school. And so it really key developmental time. So taking risks and meeting new people may be really, especially hard for them. So just encourage them in that. Also, our students, our incoming students may not be used to or know how to interact with their faculty. Faculty may feel very distant to them. They may not have had very close relationships with their high school teachers, but our faculty here, one of the benefits of Biola is that we have a small student to faculty ratio, and our faculty are very invested in the lives of their students. They want to help. So we have a thing called office hours for our faculty. So one of the things that I absolutely encourage every student to do is to take advantage and visit their faculty member, their faculty in their offices during their office hours. This will develop that connection and relationship. The faculty member will get to know them. They'll get to know the faculty member, develops a sense of belonging. They'll also know more or feel more comfortable in reaching out if they hit a bump in the road in their class, if they feel already connected to their faculty member. So that's a little bit about relationships. Another thing that we recommend for students is to plan in advance their study times. And a student who, your student may have done well in high school and feel like, oh, I don't need to, I already know how to study. Well, there are a lot of things that are different about college life. And Sandy and her team provide a lot of programming, and there's the dorms, and schedules change in college. They do. And a student who was a morning person up until now may not be anymore. And so I encourage them to think about and block out space in their calendar to study. And to get their work done. The other thing, this kind of goes along with the first recommendation of taking risks in relationships. I always encourage students to get to know the other students in their classes, because those students can be a really strong support system for them academically. Study groups. If a student is sick and has to miss class, it's great to know the other students in the class, to be able to reach out and say, hey, can I get some notes from you? I'm not going to be able to make it. Also, the reaching out to the faculty member. So yeah, initiating some intentional space and time for academic work, and then also those support relationships. And then also take care of themselves. Sleep, like I alluded to this a minute ago, schedules change. Their rhythms are going to change. There's going to be so many things that students are going to want to do here. But so to prioritize some sleep and care for themselves, their eating habits, their time with the Lord, taking care of themselves spiritually, emotionally, physically is going to go a long way, not just only in this first semester, but over their entire career as students. So we really want to encourage them to do that. So I'll leave it at that. I mean, there's a number of other tips and strategies. Sandy had talked about getting, in touch with the resources on campus. We're also going to be sharing a lot of this with your students at orientation. Again, they may not retain it all, but to have an awareness of who and connections for who they can ask and who they can go to find those resources is going to be important.
Great. Thank you so much, Tiffany. I'll add to that. One of the things that you had mentioned was connecting with your professors. And I think because of the nature of our school and how small we have these wonderful professors that take the time to sit with the students. And I remember being deeply impacted by that in my time at Biola. I was in a period of time where I was trying to decide between one major or the other. And I had the professor sit with me for 2 hours going through the pros and cons. And to me, that was just a testament to his heart for his students and the investment that he had in being a teacher and guiding and mentoring. And I was impacted by that. And I'm forever grateful to that professor for taking that time to sit with me in that. And I think that's the benefit of Biola in a lot of ways, is the investment that our professors have in their students to do something like take 2 hours to meet with a student. So that's great. Tiffany, I would love to hear even what opportunities or when might a student find themselves interacting with your office specifically?
Yeah, that's great. So your student will actually, let me dial back. They actually already have interacted with our office. So if they are an incoming transfer student, they should have already met with their academic advisor to talk about the classes that they're transferring in and build their schedule. If they are an incoming first-time student or a freshman, they have received an introduction email from their first-year academic advisor in their Biola email inbox. So maybe ask them if they've checked that and received that. They also should have received their fall class schedule, and we'll go into that. I know that there was a question about fall classes, so we'll talk about that more later. During orientation on Saturday, there is an academic orientation session where they will actually get to meet their academic advisor in person. They'll also get to meet a number of other really important people for them in their academic lives, including the dean of their school, faculty member. Also, we're going to have the career specialist that works with their program. So that also is in student success, that person, as well as a couple of really key student leaders that they'll want to get to know. One is their peer academic advisor, and one is their peer internship ambassador. So we have a whole support network for them that they're going to be able to meet in person at their academic orientation session. And then there are going to be some touch points, particularly in their first year seminar course. There'll be, that is taught by a faculty member in their department, but our academic advisors and our career specialists will be coming into the first year seminars to talk about really important things that our incoming students should know about. Then in about mid-September, they're going to be getting an email from their first year academic advisor just to set up their first one-on-one academic advising appointment. So that's kind of the rhythm and what to expect as far as engaging with some of the folks in student success.
Yeah, we have a lot of support for our students.
Absolutely.
You named so much of that, which is wonderful to see how these individuals are coming in and guiding them throughout their time at Biola. We'll transition over to Sandy. One of the questions that was submitted was, can you share a little bit about your intramural programs and student involved opportunities?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, we have an office called campus engagement, and out of campus engagement, that's just a nice word for lots of different things that students can get involved in. So out of that office is intramurals, and intramurals are Basically, we create sports teams so that they can play basketball, volleyball, soccer. We do weekend tournaments, and those are for anyone. That you don't have to have played the sport previously. In fact, sometimes that's the best thing. But essentially, students get together and create teams, and then we create a schedule for them to rotate. We usually have three sports going simultaneously. I can't off the cuff remember what's happening in the fall, but usually it works around our NC2A sports, so we're not doing soccer when they're doing soccer, that sort of thing. But essentially, it's a great way, especially for students who have played sports and that want to continue that, to do that once they're at Biola. So there will be signups, there will be information that's filtered to them. Every Monday, there's what's called our student life newsletter, which gives tips and also gives information of kind of like what's happening this week. And so in that would be information on how to sign up. What do you need to sign up? There's a small fee as a team, but essentially it's an amazing opportunity. We've had close to, oh my gosh, 5 to 600 students a semester that engage in intramurals. And one of the things we've learned, and this is again post-COVID kind of learning, is that a lot of our students are liking the weekend tournaments. It's less committal. They don't feel like they have to practice or do a weekly game. It's like, sure, I can do inner tube water polo on a Saturday. That sounds fun, and it's in works for my schedule. And so there's a varying degree of commitment levels too, which I think caters back to what Tiffany was saying as they balance their schedules. It's not you commit to this for your entire first semester and you're locked in. There are certain things that it's a 6 to 8 week sort of commitment, but there are other opportunities. And then there's opportunities for just to go to the baseball field or to the soccer field, and there's always something going on. And students just kind of do pickup games on the basketball court outside of Hope, and there's opportunities for things like that. So intramurals is just one arm out of campus engagement. We also have clubs and organizations, and you can go online and look, but we have close to 100 different clubs. And these, again, are student run clubs and orgs that they feel passionate, anything from we have a unicycle club, yes, and to something more particular related to their culture or their heritage. And so it really is a student generated, and then we help to fund some of their events that they choose to do as a club. And we always will allow to be, they can create a new club if they don't see the one they want. We do have limited availability for that each semester, but certainly that's the creativity comes from our students wanting to connect together. Clubs, intramurals, and then what we have is called traditions. And traditions are some of these you've probably, if you've attended Biola's events, have heard about some of these things, whether that's our campus-wide dodgeball tournament, which happens in the first 2 weeks of school. It's called Nation Ball. And essentially it's our entire campus, whether you're a commuter, they're also include everybody. And we have a dodgeball tournament. It is one of the most fun things to watch. Last year, we got our president involved and our vice president for student development. You should ask them who won their battle. But anyway, it was a great opportunity and lots of camaraderie, and it helps to build connection with their halls and other people on their floor, or if they're commuter and live on our apartments, all of those things kind of come together. So that's a tradition. Mock Rock is something that happens in the spring, and that is our lip sync contest with 5 or 6 different groups of about 60 to 70 students. They choreograph, tell a story. It's phenomenal. It's so much fun, and it's making a comeback because we had a couple years, obviously, where we couldn't do it. And last year we packed out the gym, had an overflow. And so it's exciting to see how students are re-engaging. And for your new student coming in, it feels kind of like a sweet spot to be coming into Biola, because there's life. There's a lot of life in these things that are happening outside the classroom. So those are just a few. We have outdoor adventures, which basically we would give the tools like, here's the map, here's some if they wanted to take a hike, where are the local hikes. Like we kind of become a concierge for connecting to the local community and beyond. I mean, taking a trip to Joshua Tree, if you're not from Southern California, it's the desert, but it's beautiful and hot. And so, depending on what your son or daughter is looking for, that certainly is a way. So there's lots of opportunities. I would say another one of those conversation is that it is so okay to say no. They don't need to participate in all of these things. And that might have been a luxury in high school to do a lot of things. And I would say pick one or two for their first semester that that's kind of their joy, that's their sweet spot, that's their release when things are stressful. I know for my kid, pick up basketball is his thing. Like I literally, when he's like freaking out about something, I'm like, have you played basketball lately? And usually the answer is no. So maybe there's something for them like that just kind of renews them. And those are the things we're trying to provide through campus engagement. The other thing we know, and this is just a fact, is that that's where they build relationship besides in the classroom and a study group. When they do things together that have common interests, then they're like, oh, you like to do this too. And they start to connect in deeper ways. And I would say that's the other learning I've seen is that students care less about the program and more for the ability to connect with one another at deeper levels. And so even the work that I've done for 27 years looks so different because we could do a lot of things and have a lot of different events happening on campus. And I'm not sure that that's always the way that students are going to connect. And so we've tried to even change some of those rhythms and what can we just have as a pop-up in the student union as game night, and it's surprising to me that some of those are the most well attended. And so we do have the big things, but at some of these more on a regular basis connecting points is really where our students are finding deep friendships. So, yeah.
I think that connects so well to what Tiffany was saying earlier of taking risks and what does it look like to step into a club for the first time or participate in a sport that maybe you're not familiar with, but you're interested in. And these are opportunities. And some of it feels daunting because it's something new, but it's so rewarding because of that community piece. You get to experience life alongside of others and all with a common interest. So I think those are really ways that we see our students connecting with other people. There's so many opportunities. Is the cheese club still
I
something
don't
that is
know.
present? I know that was
It
something
has
for a
been.
while.
Yeah, it was one of my faves.
Maybe it was too cheesy.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, we will then transition back to student success. One of the questions that we did have was in involving our academic advising and what it looks like to sign up for classes. You touched on it a little bit earlier. So the question itself was, are freshmen automatically registered for fall semester classes? And if not, how, when do they need to do this? And when do freshmen meet with an academic advisor? So I feel like you touched on a lot of those questions, but I wondered if there was anything else you wanted to add to that.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm going to expand it in case there's any parents of transfer students here. Transfer students have met with their academic advisor and they talked about their schedule and that is already happened. So, and then incoming freshmen submitted a survey, a questionnaire to the advising office about some of their preferences, their schedule preferences and things. And their academic advisor used that along with the major that they're in, if they have declared a major or not. And they have set up a recommended schedule. They've registered for your student. The students receive that schedule, a notification that their schedule in their email inbox again. So if they haven't been regularly checking their Biola email yet, they should be. That's going to answer a lot of their questions that they have. So yes, students received, there were two groups of students based on when they completed or submitted their deposits, but in late June, the majority of students received their fall schedule and then the first week of July. So be sure to check that out. And then, as I said, they will be receiving an email from their academic advisor about mid-September for their first advising appointment. However, if they have questions about their classes in the first 2 weeks, or their schedule, or just academic advising in general, the first 2 weeks of school, our advisors do drop-in advising. So a student can pop in, and they can meet with either a peer academic advisor or one of our staff academic advisors. Additionally, if your student is going to Hello Biola, our upcoming event for incoming students, we will also have drop-in academic advising during that event. So the academic advising office is going to be open, and your student can meet there if they have any questions about their schedule. Yep, just got the link there for the academic advising office. And yeah, I think that pretty much answers the question there.
Thank you. Where there was an additional question that I feel like falls in line with this one is there a technology introduction series of videos navigating the platforms used by Biola to register for classes or find out about events on campus, real-time posting of grades, assignments, and coursework?
Yes, there is, and there's a little bit of student success related things and a little bit of student development. So we'll maybe tag team this, Sandy, but yes, I believe today, if not today, in the next couple of days, your students will be getting an email invitation to our online orientation module. And so in this module, they'll go through some really high level basic information, including it's on a platform called Canvas. That's our learning management system. That's the main platform that your student is going to be using for their academics. Their faculty members are going to be using that platform for their courses. Most of the faculty have students submit their assignments through that platform. So that's a really important one to get to know. In this online orientation, we'll be including videos on how to use the system, and videos and instructions on things like how to find who your advisor is. And there's not only student success information, there's also a lot of other campus information that Sandy's team has put together. So yes, they're going to get a lot of resources. It's going to be repeated again, or some of it's going to be repeated again in the academic orientation session that they will have on the Saturday of Welcome Weekend. And then again, they're going to get more information in their first year seminar. It's going to be, we know that this is a lot of new information. So we're going to repeat it for them and kind of give it to them throughout the first few weeks of school. The one thing I didn't talk about was campus, about how to register for events on campus. I don't know if Sandy, you want to talk anything about that, but I'll open the door for you.
Which events are you talking about?
Well, the question included how to find out about and register for events on campus. So
yeah, it depends on the event. Most campus-wide events have very little registration to attend. Some, if there's a limited number of lunches or dinners or what have you, then they will have that information. It'll be clear in any of the marketing. Usually it's scan a QR code and it takes them to the place where they would register their name and allergies or anything like that. It's usually if it's meal related, but certainly we will make sure that's clear, because every event is a little different. So it's not like one size fits all in terms of how to sign up. But if they have like a general desire to get connected and just want to know, then certainly we can, they could go to an office and just say, hey, I want to be interested in this. Can you tell me when the information's coming out? So we're usually pretty forward facing. And again, that Monday email that goes to all students has a pretty high click rate, meaning students actually open it. And so it gives really the important information for that week, or signups for this, here's the link, follow here kind of things. So
Great. Yeah, I will emphasize that student life newsletter that goes out on Monday. Any events through student success. So specifically, we have events related are coming out of our career center, or we host study abroad fairs. We will include any events information in that newsletter. So again, email.
And hot off the text, that your new student should be receiving those modules by tomorrow. So have them be looking for that email course to the online orientation. So
Perfect timing with that question. Now, Sandy, I know that we've had a lot of parents ask about students bringing their car to
yeah.
campus and if there's going to be a disadvantage to them if they do not have their car with them.
I think this is a conversation to have on what you want for your kid, to be honest. We are in Southern California. There is a lot around us. I would also say that many parents choose to have them not bring their car their first semester and kind of see what that looks like. It always works out. I don't know how to explain it except to say it works out that somehow if they're living on campus, there's someone else that has a car, and it just works. And so I think that's more of a personal decision for you to talk through. Parking isn't an issue. You know, some campuses are impacted by parking. Biola has two great large parking structures, so that is less of a deterrent than on other campuses. But really, it becomes a personal choice. Everything that a student could need immediately is really within walking distance. We have a grocery store, we have restaurants, we have banks, we have a Home Depot. I mean, it's literally within 2 blocks of campus. And so they're not isolated where they are. We are in a community, we're not out in the sticks somewhere. And so there isn't, I would say, a need for a car. And I think this is the other piece that you can talk through what that looks like and how that plays out for your family. But they don't need a car to experience Biola and the things around us. That's a different topic for you and your son or daughter to talk through.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, it somehow all works out. I know that there are a lot of students that give each other rides, and while they might not have a car, there's going to be someone on their floor that does, and they will carpool to churches in the local area, which actually leads us to our next
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Do you have a list of local churches that are near our campus that students could visit or attend? And maybe if there are typical churches that you see our students going to, if that could also be talked about too.
Sure. Okay. So, yes, we have lots of churches in the area. In fact, if you go to the website, there is a list of churches. We're not necessarily endorsing any particular denomination or church. They're just proximity to Biola and in the La Mirada area and have made connections with Biola at some point. We are in early September having a church connect where it's a church fair where essentially representatives from various churches come to campus and talk about what is for them, both from a terms of a young adult ministry to how could our students be involved in supporting the ministries on these at these churches. And so it's a both and I think there's plenty of opportunities for students to get connected. Some have shuttles, not all. Some do some sort of pickup but it really becomes this is where I've seen students, hey, I'm taking a car to X, Y, and Z, do you want to come with me to church? And so it has worked out in that way. There are a few times where churches then throughout the year will come and talk about their programs and their services throughout the year. So it's not just September and then they never hear from them again. And we have an area called spiritual development, which would probably make sense at Biola. But they are the ones that keep those connections, build the relationships with the pastors and the workers at those churches, because a lot of times they're looking to Biola students to come and work for internships or to serve in various areas within the church. And it's a great opportunity for our students to get those connections. So there's plenty of opportunities to do that. Sometime in September, also, we'll do an event where we partner with the city of La Mirada called Love La Mirada and some of the other organizations that partner. It's a service day that we basically pour into the city of La Mirada. And so some of the churches actually also partake in that day. And so we would partner, maybe it's to go do trash pickup in a certain area or paint a fence or what have you. We partner with the churches later in the semester. So lots of opportunities to connect like that. And so yeah, I think again, it's how you choose to engage, not is there an opportunity for engagement. There's plenty of local churches.
Thank you. Now, I want to return back to one of the questions that we had earlier of the community life and work balance, and one of those being work life, and what does it look like to have a job on campus? Tiffany, if you could speak to all the ways that they might be looking for a job, what job options are available on our campus, and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. Work is a really important part of the majority of our students' experience on campus. About a third of our students have student jobs on campus. And that's through Biola. It's a formal paid position, either through work study or not on campus. But also students work off campus. And at some point, we encourage all of our students to do an internship. Almost 80% of our students will do at least one internship in their time at Biola, which is really important, really critical for their career success, their career growth, networking, and whatnot. So we have a system at Biola. It's called Handshake. And it is the place where students can go to find part-time jobs, both on campus and off campus, as well as internships off campus, and full-time jobs when they're getting ready to graduate. So we have thousands and thousands of employers that are posting opportunities there. And also our hiring managers at Biola, who are hiring student workers, are also posting those jobs on Handshake. So it's a great place for students to go. In the next week or two, your student will be getting a welcome to Handshake email, and they will already have an account, and they log in with their regular Biola login information, and it'll have all it'll have their major and information. They can fill out their profile and start searching for jobs. So one of the I wanted to highlight a specific job opportunity for students is called America Reads, and this is a great program. Our School of Education actually hires students to work as tutors in our local elementary schools. So they go into the elementary schools, they get paid through Biola. It's actually a work study program. So students who are eligible for work study can participate in this and go into schools, read to students, help students. You don't have to be an education major to participate. So it's a really, really great opportunity. If a student needs any help at all with finding a job on or off campus, they can always come into the Career Center, and one of our career specialists or our student workers can help them navigate Handshake and figure out how to do that.
I think one of the wonderful things about the jobs on campus is that they recognize that they are students first, and they work around their class schedule, which allows for them to have that balance of attending class and prioritizing their student life while also earning money to help pay for school or pay for the daily expenses that they might find throughout their time at Biola. There's a job for everyone, truly. I mean, you could be a chapel scanner and scan people as they come into chapel, and while earning your chapel credits at the same time. I know one of the questions that we did receive was about chapel requirements. Sandy.
Wait, sorry, Kayla.
Oh, yes.
There's a question that popped up about in the chat about work study.
Yes.
So before we transition to the next
Yes,
topic,
absolutely.
can I answer that one? Yeah. So work study is part of the federal financial aid package. And so your student will want to look at their financial aid package to see if they qualify for Work City. I would say the majority of our, if not all, except for America Reads, all of our jobs on campus are eligible for anyone. Some universities have certain jobs set aside for Work City and certain jobs not, but all of our jobs on campus, our student jobs, are eligible for all students, whether or not they have Work City.
Thank you for catching that, Tiffany. Uh, for the chapel requirements, if you could kind of touch on what's available for our students when it comes to chapel, and then also their requirements themselves.
Yes. So we have a requirement, which is 20 credits for a full-time student. And there are 6 opportunities per the course of the week. So we have kind of the traditional hour in the morning on a Monday, Wednesday, but then we also have evenings. And then there are some chapels that are sponsored by various departments that are open to all students, even if they're not a part of that department. So there's lots of ways for students to meet those 20 chapel credits. And this year, the theme for chapel is from 1st and 2nd Corinthians, and the theme is called Compelled. And our spiritual development team has worked really hard and has already set up the speakers for this fall. And so you can go online and even see who's speaking when. But it's set to be a pretty robust. I think what happens, from what I see, is that students think, oh, it's only 20, and there's 6 a week. So if I went to every chapel for 3 weeks, a little more, you could get them done. And so then they wait, and then they wait, or they choose, like, this isn't, I would suggest having a conversation. They will probably find a chapel that they most resonate with, whether that's like a more liturgical chapel or a traditional worship time, or we do fives, which is like praying through certain things at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday. And so they will probably resonate with 1 or 2. We also have Singspo, which is a big worship night. So my guess is they'll have a chapel that they most kind of connect with. So to make sure that they can meet all their chapel credits by the end of the semester, because if they don't, there is a fine. Now, if for some reason they are working, or there's a reason, then they need to work with the spiritual development office to get what's the word? It's not excluded, waived from the requirement. So don't assume anything. It's important that they have that cleared and have kind of the written documentation so they aren't surprised at the end of the semester. Some of that could be for a commuter that lives a certain mileage away from campus. So there are ways, but this is the ethos of who we are. Chapel really sets the stage of kind of what the spiritual tone is on our campus. In the fall, we have what's called our Tory conference, where really we shut down classes for 3 days and have workshops and speakers around a particular theme. And students will have conference credits that go to this chapel requirement. And then in the spring, we have our missions conference that are also part of their chapel requirement experience. So it really, there's always a chapel you can go to. And so it's exciting to see, and we're excited to be back. If you've been on campus recently, Sutherland had been under construction, and it looks gorgeous. And that is where one of our chapels will be held during the week. So we're looking forward to what that will look like. And yeah, if you have questions specifically, uniquely, I would encourage you to reach out to spiritual development.
Well, it looks like we have time for one more question, which we received in the chat box. And this was from Chantel Spires. Said, if our student is missing Hello Biola, out-of-state student, is there anything big they will miss or any way to make up for that? And I'm more than happy to answer that question. So coming up this Monday, we are hosting Hello Biola. And truly, this is just a chance for our students to complete their enrollment tasks and get acquainted with our community by visiting the dorms they've been assigned to and connecting with other students, hearing from parents, and going to academic advising, meeting with an advisor. And so there are a lot of opportunities that are presented in this event. However, if someone is missing out on it, it's not something that they aren't able to access by calling our university. It's really just to provide extra resources for our students to guide them through the enrollment process, and just another chance to visit our community and be able to connect with other people connect with our office and the admissions team and so on. So it is an opportunity. Our registration is still open. So if you're here today and you're not registered for Hello Biola, we'd love to have you join us on Monday. But with that, I want to thank both of our panelists for joining us today, and thank you all the attendees who are here. We hope that you gained a lot of information from this time. We'll also be following up with an email detailing all the things that we talked about today, so you don't miss out on any of the information that was shared. But we hope that you have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.